I'm using HTML. Inside the HTML, I'm going to embed the PHP script. PHP is faster than the ASP and JSP. Why? Because PHP uses its own memory. PHP is mainly used for server-side scripting. Server-side scripting in the sense what? We all are familiar with the forms. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on Introduction to PHP. I am your Revati ma'am, faculty from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, in my last session, I have discussed introduction about PHP in the sense which are the different units and which are the different topic we are going to study in this semester. Anyway, in my today's session, I'm going to deal with Unit 1. In that, I'm going to deal with the topics like Introduction to PHP and features of PHP. So what does PHP stands for? So PHP stands for hypertext. So hypertext preprocessor. It's also called by the name personal home page. Suppose if I want to create any web page, I'm going to use PHP. If I want to create dynamic web page, okay, especially by using scripting language, I'll go with the PHP. So it is called by the name personal home page. I can able to write PHP with the HTML. So I'm going to enclose PHP with the HTML. In the sense what? I can able to embed PHP with an HTML. It's a server-side scripting where I'm going to run my program. It's on the server. For that reason, it is called by the name server-side scripting. And it is mainly used for web development. It's also a general purpose programming language. Now the question arises, who is the father of PHP? That is none other than Rasmus Lerdorf. Who is Rasmus Lerdorf, and he introduced PHP in the year 1994. Okay, and it came into the market in the year 1995. And the syntax of the PHP is similar to C programming as well as Java. It's a scripting language and it is used to execute on the server. Okay, so the PHP code simply mixed with HTML. I'm using HTML. Inside the HTML, I'm going to embed the PHP script. So PHP code is processed by the PHP interpreter. So dear student, we all are familiar with translator. So which are the translator we are familiar with? That is assembler, compiler and interpreter. Now we are running PHP through the interpreter. So PHP is nothing but the interpreted programming language. Interpreted in the sense what? We are going to execute one line at a time and we are going to display the output. So PHP code is processed by PHP interpreter. We are not using any compiler. Instead of that, we use interpreter. So PHP file consists of texts. Even it includes the HTML tags along with the scripts, and the extension of the file is .php. How I'm going to store the PHP file? That is through the .php. What's the extension of the PHP file? That is .php. So here PHP stands for hypertext preprocessor. PHP is an interpreted programming language, so here we are not required any compiler for compilation. Okay, fine. If I want to summarize the PHP is faster than the ASP and JSP. So what is ASP? Active Server Page, JavaScript. Okay, PHP is faster than the ASP and JSP. Why? Because PHP uses its own memory. So PHP uses its own memory. So it reduces the overload of the server. So it reduces the overload of the server. For that reason, PHP is faster. PHP is server-side scripting language. It is used to create dynamic web page or dynamic content on the web page. And PHP always embedded with the HTML. It's an object-oriented programming language. So PHP falls under object-oriented programming language. So dear student, when I say it is object-oriented programming language, what are the things I want to consider? That is nothing but the classes and object. Anyway, we are going to study all the object-oriented programming concept in PHP in my upcoming session. It is open source scripting language. So what is open source? Freely available software. So no need to pay for this software. So PHP is freely available. You can able to use the PHP according to your need. And PHP supports databases like MySQL and Oracle. So I can able to combine database with the PHP. So these are the important features of PHP. So what is PHP? Preprocessor. That is hypertext preprocessor, or I can able to call by the name personal home page. Now, if I consider the features of PHP, PHP provides certain features like open source, embedded, control, closely typed language, security, helpful for PHP community. Along with that, web server supports, error reporting, database support, platform independent performance. These are the features of the PHP. Anyway, dear student, let's see the features of PHP one by one. So at the beginning, I'm going to have the performance. How I can able to measure the performance? That's nothing but the speed of the execution. So execution speed of the PHP is faster than the ASP and JSP because PHP uses its own memory. So the server workload and loading time is automatically reduced. When I consider server, okay, the job of the server is to accept the request, process the request and send the result back to the client. Okay, fine. When I consider this servers are capable to execute more than 2 scripts simultaneously. So when the server executes more than 2 scripts simultaneously, what's going to happen? The execution speed of the server is going to decrease. But if I use PHP, in PHP uses its own memory. So what's going to happen? There is no burden to the server in terms of workload and loading time. So it improves the execution time. So the execution time of the PHP is faster than ASP as well as JSP. Okay, fine. Then I have one more important feature, that is open source. So what is open source? We are familiar with the word open source. Most of the softwares are open source. Open source in the sense what? Freely available software. So here PHP source code and softwares are freely available. So no need to pay the amount. According to user requirement, they can able to use the versions of the PHP as well as software. Now, I have one more important features, that is familiarities with the syntax. PHP syntax are easily understandable. So it does not have any complex syntax. Now, embedded in the sense what? I'm going to include the PHP code in my HTML document. So I'll start with the HTML anyway. In my future classes, I'm going to deal with how to write the HTML code. Okay. Now you just remember that inside the HTML document, I'm going to include the PHP, that is scripting language. So the PHP code can be easily embedded with the HTML tag and script. Now I have one more important feature, platform independent or platform dependent. Okay, fine. Or platform neutral. So I have platform independent. Independent in the sense what? I'm not going to depend on the platform. I can able to use any platform. Okay, fine. Think that you are a student. Okay, you are studying now. Now you are dependent on your parent. So it is dependent. Okay, then what about independent? You are studying at the same time you started earning. Okay, so for money, you does not want to depend on your parent. So it is independent. So you are independent student. Similarly, if I consider PHP, I'm going to write the PHP script for Windows operating system. And if I copy same code and if I run same script on the other operating system, then it is called platform independent. PHP is available for Windows, Mac, Linux operating system as well as Unix operating system. A PHP application developed in one OS, OS stands for what? Operating system, can be easily executable in other operating system. Then database support. So PHP is mainly used for server-side scripting. Server-side scripting in the sense what? We all are familiar with the forms, exam forms. So what we will do? We are going to fill the application. We are going to have the online application and we are going to fill the application and we are going to submit the application. When I submit the application, what's going to happen? The application information must be stored, right? For that, I'm going to have the database. So what is my front end and what's my back end? Here the back end is database connection. So I can go with the MySQL, I can go with the SQLite, or I can go with the ODBC. So PHP supports all the leading data types like MySQL, SQLite, ODBC. Okay, fine. If I consider another feature, that is nothing but the error reporting. In PHP, I have predefined error reporting constants. By using predefined error reporting constant, I can very easily handle the errors. So what are the error reporting constant? I can have that is error, or I can able to have the warning, even I can have the restrict, or even I can have the phase. Okay, fine. Then I have one more important feature, that is loosely typed language. So what is loosely typed language? So dear student, we are learned C program, C++ program, Java. Okay, C and Java. Both are not loosely typed language. So see here, PHP allows us to use the variable without declaring its data type. In C, if I want to use the variable, what I want to do? I want to define the type of the variable. There is nothing but the data type. Okay. But in PHP, I don't want to define the data type. See, if I consider C program, how I'll write? int a. So I'm defining a of the type integer. But if I consider PHP, I'll write a equal to 10. So automatically the type of the data is defined. So PHP allows to use a variable. Okay, we can able to use the variable without declaring the data type. So I'm using the variable. What is my variable here? A. And I'm not going to define the type of the data or type of the variable. So automatically, okay, A is of type integer now. Why? Because I'm storing the whole number 10. So whole number is nothing but the integer. So automatically, okay, the data type is going to taken. Okay, fine. Now, if I consider another very important feature, that is security. So PHP is secure programming language and it is mainly used for website. So it must consist of multi-layer of security to prevent the attacks and to prevent the threats. So we can have the malicious attack. When I consider PHP, where I'm going to run the PHP, it's on the browser, and where at the server. Okay, so I can able to expect different kinds of threats, and I can able to expect different kinds of malicious attacks. So PHP provides security. What kind of security? That is multi-layer security. Okay, fine. Now I have one more important concept, that is PHP syntax. So how I can able to write the PHP script? Now a PHP script can be placed anywhere in the document. So think that I'm going to create a document wherever I want. I can able to place the PHP script. So a PHP script starts with open angular bracket, question mark, PHP, and ends with question mark, okay, and closing angular bracket. Okay, fine. Let me to see the syntax here. Opening angular bracket, question mark, PHP. Okay, this is the starting of the PHP, and I'll write all the codes, and when I want to close, question mark, closing angular bracket. Anyway, let's see simple example. So till now we were discussing that, okay, I can able to write PHP within the HTML. So I'm going to embed, right? So if I write this one, this indicates that the version of the HTML document. For example, HTML5. So the code starts with HTML. It's a tag. Okay. Then I'm having the body tag. Okay. Inside the body, I have the heading, that is nothing but my first PHP page. Okay, fine. Now in that page, what I want to display? I want to display the message called hello world. To display or to print, I'm going to have the method called echo. Okay, by using echo, I'm going to display the content on the screen. See, this is my script. Okay, this is my PHP script. So I'm going to start with opening angular bracket, question mark, PHP, and whatever the thing I want to write, where I'm writing within the PHP, and I'm going to close the PHP, and I'm going to close the body, and I'm going to close the HTML. This is the way I can able to embed PHP with my HTML. So what is HTML? Hypertext Markup Language. Anyway, dear student, in my today's class, I started with introduction about PHP. So what is PHP stands for? Hypertext Preprocessor. Okay, so it's a interpreted language. So it does not require any compiler. And where I'm going to run the script? On the server. So it's a server-side scripting language. And why I use PHP? In order to display the content dynamically on the web page or website, then I'll go with the PHP. So to develop dynamic web page or web application, we are going to use PHP. Along with that, I have discussed the concepts like features of PHP and syntax of PHP, how I can able to use PHP script in my HTML. Anyway, dear student, in my next session, I'm going to deal with the data types supported by the PHP, variables in the PHP. At the same time, I'm going to deal with the operators supported by the PHP. Anyway, dear student, thank you for watching my session, and let's meet in the next session with more information about PHP. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.